Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we are going to be recording history using some magazine collage inspired by the wonderful Dyan Reavley. So this was inspired after watching a free class that Dyan did at the end of 2020, all about the pandemic and, how to record it basically, and using art journaling for mental health reasons and just to get your hand working and so on. It's something that for those people who have followed me know this is why I art journal anyway. So it was sort of really good. It was relaxing. It was nice knowing that you're sort of all working together across the world, and people are kind of on the same path, doing the same things, sharing an experience together, as we all are during what's happening around the globe. So that's where this sort of came from, and I'll leave a link to that in the description box below. But I started out in my large Dylusions journal making a background. So I'm just scrubbed on 3 colours of paints. I've used rose quartz, I think, bubblegum pink, and maybe pink flamingo, and then I've got some sunshine yellow over the top. So Dyan always talks about working in either warm colours or cool colours in your backgrounds. So that's what I've done on this page. I've used a paper artsy stencil from Tracy Scott with the letters in the background, and I've just used whatever paint I had for the background over the top. And what I tend to do is overlap. So over a dark pink I'd use a lighter pink, over the lighter pink I might use the yellowy colour, and so on. So I'm blending the colours together in the background. I also use the same stenciled image no matter what you use over it, so you've got that repetition of pattern happening and repetition of colour. But you can see that it's sort of, by using the same colours in the stenciling and stamping but sort of overlapping them in different ways, you get a really cool effect. So the collage pieces that I'm using are from the Dyan Reavley collage papers. She's got 2 packs. Now I am a terror. I get packs like this and I take them both out of the packets that I've got and mix them together. So I don't know if this is out of packet 1 or packet 2, or if they're out of both of them. So I'm really sorry about that, but that's how I roll. But what I've basically done is I want to create a paper doll. So I'm going in and just looking at the different shapes. Now those mountainy shapes are really, really good sort of as a body, but you can add to them. So use your imagination. And these are some stamped images, again from Dylusions as well, that I thought, well, I've got these stamped images, why not combine those two? So don't feel that you have to do all magazine collage. You can add your stamped images in and use them in different ways. So for example, these curly branchy things, which I think are supposed to be seaweed, I tend to always use as hair. The flowers, again, I think are supposed to be flowers that go on top of those branchy things. I like to use them as, hats or parts of dresses like I've done here. Use your imagination, add them in wherever you want. You can see by adding on sort of those black and white bits, it just gives a little bit more interest to the page. It's already interesting anyway, but by adding on some different elements, it just sort of finishes off the entire piece. Now, I do always sort of audition my pieces just so I'm sure that I like them, that they work together, that if there's anything else I need to find, I can go find it. When I'm doing magazine collages, I do tend to put borders on, as does Di, as does, if you go and look up the amazing artwork of Tisha Moore, who's kind of the godmother of this. She's sort of invented these types of collages in the first place. By putting a border on the page, it just gives you that framing effect. Because I don't tend to do single pages all that much, by putting a border on it for me makes this page look finished, instead of me constantly looking over to the other page going, oh, I should have something on both of these pages. One thing that I like to do with all these things is, once I'm finished, is to outline them all and add extra detail with paint pens. So you can see at the moment as I'm gluing them down, these things are sort of all blending in together a little bit. When you're gluing them down too, you need to sort of remember what order you're gluing everything down so you can overlap them properly and have what pieces need to be glued down first, glued down. The other thing is you can see that while I have got that border on the page, I'm not worried if my image goes out and over the top of that border. That actually just adds to it in the end. Now, I originally decided to have that little acorny thing on here, but I couldn't really fit it in, so I decided to leave it off. And again, you know, you can cut stuff out and think, oh, I'm going to use that, and then not use it in the end. It's perfectly okay. It's your collage. You can do whatever you want with it. So you can see immediately by outlining this with black pen how much it picks up the image. It's just magic, really. And one of the reasons for that is because these are all printed papers. With the printing process, it's really hard to get a true black, so it'll always be like a dark grey colour. So by adding that little bit of black back on, it gives you back your outlines, it gives you back that little pop of colour to make sure everything stands out. And even with my stamped images, even though they looked really black compared to the printed images, by adding the extra black pen over the top just helps pop it out from the background a little bit more. So this is where you can take as much time and effort as you want and just play around. So, you know, add different colors in, add your favorite colors in. I tend to, when I'm doing this, always have a black and white pen and one or two other colors. Now, they may be colors that go with my image, they may be colors that are completely outlandish, but by sort of limiting my palette a little bit to those few colors, it just helps tie everything together a little bit. So the colors I've chosen are this bright pink and the turquoise. And the pens I'm using are all Posca paint pens, and they're the fine pens. So they're the, got one sitting in front of me. They're the 1M, so they're bullet tip ones. I highly recommend, if you're buying paint pens, do not buy pin tip pens, the ones that have got the metal ends, because particularly in mixed media, they die really quickly because paint gets trapped in the, or paper fibers and so on, get trapped in the metal barrel and it stops it from working. So if you buy the bullet tip ones, you can still get really fine lines, but you'll find it can go over everything. So that's just my 2 cents of advice. So with my stamped images too, you can see I'm going over and colouring those in. Now obviously you don't need to use paint pens for this. You could use gel pens, you could use colour pencils, whatever you've got. It's just adding extra detail in wherever you want. It is kind of addictive, so you know, have something good playing in the background or some good music and you can just get carried away. It is something you could possibly do sitting on your lap watching TV, because it is fairly mindless, but it's fun to do. The other thing is you can change stuff up. So, you know, with the eyes, I want to make them a bit more dramatic. So I made really thick eyeliner. With the mouthpiece, instead of just having it all black, I want to add in more pink. So you can make something really pop up from the background. Once I've finished sort of doing what I wanted to do with the image, I'm then going to add text. So when I do magazine collages, I tend to do this type of writing, which is draw out some wavy lines and fill in the writing with pen up to the line. Sorry, I had to think about what I was doing. Now I started using a thicker pen and I decided to use a thinner pen to keep writing, just to help with the spacing. I also write straight away with my paint pen. The reason for that is I find that if I make a mistake with the paint pen, I can wipe it away with a wet wipe, which you saw me do with the A down there. Because I've got sealed acrylic paint in the background, because I usually use acrylic paints, Now this obviously wouldn't work if I was using watercolors or something that's water activated, but because I'm using acrylic paints, once acrylic paint is dried, it is sealed, so I can wipe away wet acrylic paint over the top. I find I press too hard when I'm using pencil, so it digs into the page and it marks it, which I really don't like. By being able to use a paint pen, if I make a mistake, I can wipe it away. It's usually fairly unobvious where it is on the page. I don't know why I picked up the thicker pen to do that A again when I'd been using the thinner pen, so that's just one of the mysteries of the world. Who knows? When I've finished doing my writing, you can see I do it really plain, and then I go back over it again, and that's where I widen up and add on extra little bits to my letters, just to fill out the spaces and make it sort of really fit into the page a little bit. And then I go back for a third time and put on my highlights. So, or I suppose shadows, but because I'm using white, I call them a highlight. You can see that sort of helps pop them out of the page a little bit, makes them look a little bit 3D. So the quote I chose for this page is, "In the rush to return to normal, use this time to consider which part of the normal you want to rush back to," which I love. In the craziness of last year, there was so much that has changed. We've got so many new normals. It is, you know, what do we want to go back to? What do we want to keep the same? So for me, you know, lockdowns, I know for a lot of people can be absolutely horrendous, but I was really lucky in the fact that we got to walk lots with our 2 daughters. We got to spend that time exploring nature a little bit. And that's something that we've continued to keep up. That's part of our new normal now, which has been a lovely, out of all the craziness, that's been a really lovely thing for us to keep as a family. So that quote really resonated with me. It's sort of like, what are the silver linings out of all this horribleness? What are the silver linings that you can kind of cast our hook onto and keep? So this is my page, inspired by Dyan Reavley's class. I kind of went a little bit off what was actually happening in class and did something slightly different, but I loved that opportunity to reflect back on last year and think, you know, it was crazy, it was ridiculous, but you know, what are we going to keep and you know, cherish from last year if we can. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a go at commemorating something, and collage is a great way to do it. Until next time, bye for now.